I think Farage is trying to incite a race war, and I think just whipping people up, trying to get people of different colours and backgrounds and heritage as turning on each other isn't going to help. And that is the truth. And that's not to say racism doesn't exist. White people don't experience racism too at times, but it's mainly against people of colour. But yes, it exists. Terrible events occur, and then other people try and make them even worse for their own political ends. And I think that's hugely regrettable.
But I suggest the rest of us respond to this with pure, cold rage.
I'm really shocked that he pretends to have respect. My response, and the response of others to be fair, has been focused on the lessons to be learned so we can deliver justice. His response has been to appeal for rage. Rage. That's his response. It shows exactly who he is.
Since the Southampton riots, a lot of people are asking, is Nigel Farage guilty of violent public disorder? And this is under the 1986 Act. Now, what is public order? What exactly is it? We have to define what exactly is a public order offence. Okay, and are there minor and major parts to it? Well, number one, a public criminal offence is one of threats, intimidation and violence, abusive behaviour. What they did, they extended it into ASBO, anti-social behaviour. It's all part of the public order offence, but they expanded it, and it's a minor offence, okay? A lot of far right have a habit of trying to twist this law to their advantage, where they're arguing that it does not affect free speech, etc. However, it does. If your free speech is going to lead to riots, abusive behavior, harassment, or likely to cause alarm and distress, then obviously these laws are there and intended to protect the public and maintain societal peace. However, Nigel Farage would argue that these people that rioted, in one of his videos, he said that they're savages. They are Tommy Robinson's mindset, fan club. They have nothing to do with him.
That nobody could join us if they'd been former members of the EDL or the BNP. I did not want the far right getting involved with UKIP. I wanted to make tough arguments about illegal immigration, what was happening in the Mediterranean, all the rest of it, without any taint, of racism or Islamophobia or whatever it may be. And I can't believe that the current UKIP leader wants to welcome in the founder of the EDL. But worst of all, they're now planning a rally in London on the 9th of December, where Robinson and Batten will speak. It's a march through Westminster. I know what will happen. It'll be full of skinheads and people with tattooed to the eyeballs. They'll all be drunk before they get there. Punch-ups and God knows what. And the next day is the vote on the Brexit thing. I mean, and this is how Brexit will look. It'll look like a bunch of far-right politicians. I'm absolutely disgusted by it. So I've held my silence as a former party leader until now, but we now have to get rid of this bloke as leader, because he's not just damaging UKIP, he's damaging Brexit. Literally the street, literally street fighting, yobby, thuggy, nasty, extremist, racist. I'm heartbroken by it.
Yet, the same, I think it was 2 years ago or last year, the same riot erupted after Nigel Farage's rhetoric, where he says, I'm not saying, but what I'm telling you, there's more to it than meet the eye. In other words, the police are lying. The police are not giving you enough information. They're hiding it from you because you are white.
It's hard to be shocked by Nigel Farage anymore, in the sense that increasingly, during the recent general election campaign, some of his rhetoric was very, very extreme. It was indistinguishable from anything that Tommy Robinson says. It's why people started calling him like Tommy Robinson in a suit. But I do think the comments he made about the events in Southport in the run-up to the riot that night were really extraordinary. This was a man who now sits in Parliament. This is an individual who called into question the official police's account and also consciously spread misinformation and disinformation that was designed to be a nod and a wink to his supporters on the far right. And he did it in a traditional Nigel Farage way. He didn't come out and say, "I believe this." He couched it as asking questions. But the effect was the same thing. Those people on the far right, those individuals that already believed that this attacker was a Muslim, when they hear Nigel Farage ask the question about whether or not this person is on an MI6 watch list, he's done his job there. He's stoked up the flames and he's also continued to spread that information. If he wanted answers to those questions, he's an MP. He could have got answers to those questions. He could have gone to the House and asked them. But he didn't. He chose to go on social media and amplify and spread misinformation.
But I suggest the rest of us respond to this with pure, cold rage.
White lives matter. And this is a red flag to a bull, an angry bull, a bull that's already charged and ready for violence. And all you do is wave that magic red flag. And immediately it drifted off into riots and violence.
But I suggest the rest of us respond to this with pure, cold rage.
And it was called the Farage riots. Immediately, interestingly enough, the same thing happened last week. The same thing where the police were assaulted and one of the dogs, I think, was harmed. I'm an animal lover, so I'm going to remember that. Yet it happened straight afterwards. Nigel Farage says, we must act with rage.
But I suggest the rest of us respond to this with pure, cold rage.
I'm really shocked that he pretends to have respect. My response, and the response of others, to be fair, has been focused on the lessons to be learned so we can deliver justice. His response has been to appeal for rage. Rage. That's his response. It shows exactly who he is.
But I suggest the rest of us respond to this with pure, cold rage.
Violence seemed to follow every wicked and stirring speech that he makes, which means that on a balance of probability, put in front of an honest jury, unbiased, he would be charged under the 1986 public order offence. I'm not sure whether it's been amended. I'm not too up to date, with the law regarding that. But if it's not been amended, okay, if anything, if it's been strengthened in order to protect the public and the jury has not been bought out, then he would be found guilty.
But I suggest the rest of us respond to this with pure, cold rage. But I suggest the rest of us respond to this with pure, cold rage.
Because we have to question, because there's also a mens rea and act riotous. What was Nigel Farage's intention? What was his intention? Well, we have to look at his previous behaviour. We have to look at how he likes to stir people up while he's drinking champagne in a private club and playing golf, and people listening to him ended up in prison while he's rubbing shoulders with the rich and the famous and billionaires. But what is his intention?
But I suggest the rest of us respond to this with pure, cold rage.
And how is it after he exercises his violence and rhetoric, it always leads to riotous behavior? It always leads to riots, to violence, intimidation, harassment, public disorder. We could only deduce that his intentions, his mens rea, is deliberate, is meant to cause harm, is meant to cause distress, is meant to stir up racial hatred, or otherwise his words would not be leading to this social distress, this social anxiety and violence and intimidation. The jury could only deduce that his intentions was not honourable. They were criminal in nature. He knew the damage that he did before, yet he did not curb his words. He did not in any way think, let me put my mind into gear before I open my mouth, knowing what happened, I think it was last year or 2 years ago. He did not care.
But I suggest the rest of us respond to this with pure, cold rage.
He knew the damaging what words can do. But yet it did not hold him back. This is a guy who's tried to hide his 5 million donation. They suddenly got, I know what I will do. I know the powerful distraction. I'll stir up racial hatred. Even though the family of Henry said, don't. He's not racially motivated. He's just a horrible killer, a vicious killer that exploited his religion and thought he could use the race card in order to kill an innocent student. But Nigel Farage ignored the parents.
But I suggest the rest of us respond to this with pure, cold rage.
He was a one-man's war who knew the damage that he was going to do. I vote he is guilty, but the system will not touch him. It's all a game.
If you don't think, they will think for you. If you don't cry for peace, they will come for you. They'll love you today, they'll love you confused. If you don't cry for justice, they will come for you. Can you cry that you can't see the pain?